The coordinates didn't exist on any map I'd been issued, but someone had been there before me. I want to be clear about that from the start, because everything that follows depends on you understanding that I am not a person who scares easily. 14 years in federal service. 3 postings, Shenandoah, Olympic, and finally Blackthorn Ridge, which is the one that matters here. I've pulled drowning victims out of spring rivers. I've talked armed poachers into laying their rifles down in the dirt. I've spent nights alone in sectors so remote that the silence has actual weight to it, like something pressing on your eardrums from the inside. I know how wilderness sounds when it's just wilderness. That morning, it didn't sound like just wilderness. It started the way most things out here start, routine, almost boring. Sector patrol, grid, Echo 7, northeastern quadrant of the Blackthorn backcountry, roughly 11 miles from the nearest trailhead. We do these rotations on a staggered schedule to cover ground that most visitors never see, and, frankly, never should. The terrain up there doesn't forgive inexperience. It's all deadfall and granite shelves and creek crossings that look like nothing in August and will absolutely kill you in May. I'd logged my departure with dispatch at 0640. Ranger Calloway, Sector E7, estimated return 1600, no anticipated contact. Standard language. The kind of thing you say so many times, it stops meaning anything. My truck was parked at the service road terminus, and from there it was a 6-mile hike and on a trail that stopped being maintained around 2009 and had mostly returned to forest. I had my pack, my radio, my sidearm, bear spray, 2 liters of water, and a paper topo map in a waterproof sleeve because I don't trust GPS units above 4,000 feet. They lie, not often, but enough. The first few miles were what I'd call honestly pleasant. Overcast morning, cool, the kind of September air that smells like pine resin and something faintly mineral underneath. My boots were finding their rhythm. I was doing radio checks every 40 minutes, just a click and a response from dispatch. Nothing verbal, standard protocol for deep sector work. The clicks came back clean. I was connected. That matters to me. I want you to understand how much that matters. Around mile 4, the trail, such as it was, curved northeast, and the canopy thickened. Sitka spruce, mostly, with a heavy understory of fern that was going gold at the edges. The light changed the way it does in dense forest, going from gray to a kind of deep, filtered green. My footsteps on the duff went quiet, which is something people don't think about. Deep forest isn't loud. It absorbs things. That's when I noticed the birds had stopped. Not gradually. Not the way birds go quiet when a hawk passes over, which is this slow, spreading hush that moves through the trees in a wave. This was immediate. One moment, there was the usual background chatter, nuthatches, a pair of ravens I'd been tracking by sound off to my left. And then, there was nothing. I stopped walking, stood completely still, listened. Wind in the upper canopy, creek sound, distant, probably the north fork of Barrow Creek, about a quarter-mile east. My own breathing was it. I stood there for a solid 2 minutes. Learned not to rush that particular feeling. The feeling that something in the environment has shifted. Sometimes it's a predator. Sometimes it's a pressure change before weather rolls in. Sometimes it's nothing at all. And your nervous system is just pattern matching too aggressively because you're alone and your brain knows it. I noted it. I kept moving. and I told myself it was nothing. I was wrong about that. The structure came into view about 20 minutes later, and my first thought, I need to be honest about this. My first thought was that I was seeing things wrong, that my eyes were misinterpreting distance and shadow, and I was actually looking at a rock formation or a cluster of deadfall that happened for maybe 5 seconds. Then I got close enough and I stopped moving entirely, and I just looked at it. It was a room, not a cabin, not a shelter, a room, 4 walls and a roof, constructed in a small clearing in the trees about 60 yards off what remained of the trail. The walls were timber, rough cut, but fitted together with some care. The roof was corrugated metal, the old kind, gone almost entirely to rust. The whole structure was maybe 12 by 14 feet. No windows on the side facing me. A single door standing open, dark inside. I stood at the edge of the clearing for a long time. Here's what bothered me, what would have bothered anyone who knows how structures age in wet backcountry. I keyed my radio. Dispatch, this is Calloway. I've got an uncharted structure in grid Echo 7. Requesting a records check, over. Nothing but heavy static came back. Dead zone. I was completely alone. My hand moved near my sidearm as I approached the open door. Inside, it was dim. A table, one chair, and a wood stove. The side walls were covered in shelves, and on those shelves were dozens of identical black composition notebooks. I pulled one down. The paper inside was crisp and clean. The handwriting was small, covering every line without margins. It was a field log, precise language, compass bearings, numerical references to distances. But instead of a date, each entry had a sequential number. The one I held was entry 2,847. 2,847 days. That's almost 8 years. I crouched by the wood stove and held my hand near the firebox. The ash inside wasn't cold. It had been used within the last day, maybe 2. I looked at the open door. The clearing was empty. The forest was dead silent. Leaving and calling for backup was the correct protocol, but I stayed. Something about the number 2,847 fascinated me. I started reading entries at random. They all described a pattern of activity at what the author called the boundary, a specific location measured in meters from the cabin. Arrival time, duration, departure, direction. Not once did the author express fear or wonder, just flat, cold facts. The most recent entry ended mid-sentence, not at the end of a thought, mid-sentence, as if the author had stopped writing to look at something outside and never came back. That's when I heard the sound. It came from the tree line to the northwest. It wasn't an animal, and it wasn't the wind. It was rhythmic, mechanical, a heavy, repeating sound with perfect intervals. Every part of my survival instinct went ice cold. I put my back against the cabin wall and watched the trees. Nothing emerged. The sound continued for 90 seconds and then stopped instantly. Immediately, the birds came back. The silence broke. I didn't wait. I marked the coordinates on my paper map and hiked 6 miles back to my truck in one breath. 2 weeks later, I got an official memo. A 2-person team had gone back to sweep grid Echo 7. They found nothing. No cabin, no clearing, no debris. 11 days after my patrol, it was just empty forest. It's been 3 seasons since that day. I haven't been back to Echo 7, but twice now, during early morning patrols nearby, before the birds wake up. I've heard it. That same rhythmic repeating sound from the northwest. I always check my radio when it starts. The signal is always full. I'm always connected. But I'm still not sure that helps.